Hey everyone, I'm Carlos and welcome to a new book discussion of productbooklab.com. Every month we discuss online a book about product management together with the author and other product colleagues. If you want to find the recordings from our previous discussions and also join us and participate on the upcoming ones, go to productbooklab.com. To find out how to support the book club and help us keep it running without any ads, check the links in the description.
My name is Carlos. This is one of the discussions of productbooklab.com, where we meet once a month to discuss a book related to product management. And today we're going to discuss the Product Manager Survival Guide by Steven Haines. And Steven is going to join us in the call in a few minutes. As usual, right? If someone has any questions, please feel free to type it on the chat. Maybe sometimes there's some background noise. You can also just raise your hands in Zoom or unmute yourself and make it. And just introduce yourself and let's just try to make it a nice discussion. We also have Tate working with Steven, right? So Tate, maybe you can tell us a bit about the Institute. I know you guys do a lot of workshops, right? Maybe you can give a quick introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. So about 25 years ago, give or take, Steven founded Sequent Learning Networks, which is a product management training, consulting, diagnostic company. We specialize in really building out a full program for product managers at any stage in their career and training their teams, especially inside corporations, really working through building that competency level and building out the infrastructure that's required to have really productive product management practices in the organization. We, through pandemic, go figure, opened also an online portion of that training. So we've now offer our training in 3 different modalities. So we could do in-person, online, which is particularly wonderful for individuals, and then also virtual training as well, which has proven to be the most popular now as we kind of not only start to realize that a lot of our companies have global teams, but also as we kind of still navigate getting back into the office altogether. We offer all sorts of classes, everything from the intro to product management essentials, which goes directly with this book, everything all the way up to managing product management, which goes along with Steven's full library of books, which would include the Product Manager's Desk Reference, the survival guide that we'll talk about today, a mini book series, which I encourage you all to check out, that focuses on specific topics like building a business case or building a specific strategy, which could apply to either a product strategy or just general business strategy. A book called Leading Product Management, which is fabulous if you're looking to move into a leadership position or are in a leadership position. And then also, which is a new book and also a newer business venture for us, our sister company, the Business Acumen Institute. And there's a book that goes along with that called the Business Acumen Handbook. And that kind of has the same vibe as Sequent, except we're really focusing on building out business acumen practices for both individuals and companies. We're finding that that's the real ticket that leaders are missing from their teams. And I'd love to share some of those resources with you all as well. We've got a ton of free tools and templates, self-assessments, and everything to help you at your desk between all of those topics. So if there's anything in particular that you're looking to build out or a skill set that you're looking to build out inside of those 2 companies, I'm sure that we could supplement you with recommendations, both paid and free. So please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, indeed. I was very nicely surprised with all the resources. I think, especially on the book, The Product Manager's Survival Guide, I really like the templates, the self-assessment. So it was very nice to read it.
Absolutely. And I would encourage you all on our website, if you go to sequentlearning.com, there's an online community that you can log into. It's free and it is a one-stop shop. Essentially, is about 15 templates, over 20 videos that are really short, like focus on specific topics, and they all really help you, along with a whole separate section that goes along with the books and really builds out resources for the books, particularly the desk reference, because it's such a big, like, textbook-like book. You know, it helps break down each illustration and helps you per topic. But our goal is to really just help product managers in their role. And we understand that everybody comes from a different scenario. Product managers don't typically go into product management saying, that's me, you know, I'm going to be a product manager today. So anything we can do to provide you with tools to help you kind of see the trees through the forest is really our goal here. Nice. I'm glad you got to look at some of those, Carlos. I hope that you all get to take a look as well. I'll just drop the link in the chat for you. So if you're interested later on, you could figure out how to become a member of that community. And again, it's totally free.
Awesome. Yeah, then I can also share it on the emails.
Oh, perfect.
While we wait for Steven, maybe I also curious to hear from the others joining, if they have also read the book, or maybe they are like thinking about it, maybe they're halfway. David, have you read the book?
I have not finished it, but
okay.
I have started it, and I like just the, you know, I've been a product manager for a while, so it was good to kind of go back and think of all the different elements that are involved in product management, because sometimes you kind of just get caught up in your day-to-day activities and you don't think about all the different elements that you really should. And I thought this was a good layout of that to kind of then revisit that, and for me to revisit the different parts of the job that maybe I have neglected in certain time over time. So that's what I'm hoping to get out of it and continue on that journey, you know.
Yeah, indeed. Nice. Yeah, no, I really like also that there were a lot of topics, like you mentioned, some of them that maybe you don't really get to see on your day-to-day, but it's nice to have it the reference thing, especially like I really like that, for example, on I think maybe like the second half talks a lot about pricing, that I think I've got to see it, but you know, it's especially to have like a big pricing project is so rare and it's so difficult, right? How to set the price. But I really like that it was mentioned there and provided some guide and some tools on it. What about the others? Damla, do you know the book? Oh, you have it there as well.
It was almost finished, just 1 unit left, and it was so useful. So here I am.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah, very nice. Also, I read his another book, Product Manager's Test Reference book. It was a perfect source for the PM.
Nice, awesome. And the others, Yoti, maybe?
I actually haven't gone through the book. Actually, I just entered in the field of this product management recently, and I was actually searching for things related to product management and product related articles. And I happened to find this one, and I thought this would be really helpful, even if if I did not go through the book. So I'm here today to get stuff, knowledge and stuff related to products and everything.
Yeah, nice, awesome. Yeah, we also find that sometimes some people are like on the fence deciding if they should buy the book or not. So I think it's also usually very useful for some of them. Someone else wants to share? Julian, Guilherme, are you guys familiar with the book? Or Anna, I'll see you connected.
I haven't read the book, but I'm a product designer and I work a lot with product managers. So I just wanted to hear a perspective from the ones that actually read the book, and curious to know if there are any tools that help in collaboration with team members, like with design. I think Marty Kagan mentioned a lot that in his book that this collaboration is very important. So I'm curious like how it's described in this book. So really curious to know other PM's opinion.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, no, maybe, yeah, also for the others that haven't read the book, right? And I think also Tate, maybe you can help me, right? As a way of quick summary, of course, of the book. What I like is that indeed, I also saw it as a survival guide. So there's a lot going on. Hey, Steven.
I am so sorry. I did have an emergency, but I am here and I am safe
No worries.
and everything is good. Hi.
Awesome. Good to hear so well. Yeah, no, we were just doing like a quick round to see. So we have David, Damla, they are like reading the book, right? I think the others have heard of it or maybe are thinking about it. So yeah.
I see Damla all the time in the LinkedIn and you're making comments all the time, right?
Yeah, right. I'm following you because it is so useful for me. I'm a pretty new product manager, so that's why I'm following you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Very nice. Maybe, yeah, we can start with a quick intro about yourself, Steven.
You had a week? Well, just I'll try to do the short CV. So when I was a little kid, when I was 10 years old, I didn't have any money growing up, and I lived in a place in a suburb of New York City where it snowed. And so we wanted to take the snow shovel from our garage, and my friend and I will go to the neighborhood, knock on doors and say, can we shovel your driveway? But the bigger kids were already promised. So in the summer when I was 11, I went around the neighborhood. I made a contract with my friend, and they would sign the contract. So I would have to get the deals, and they couldn't hire any of the other kids, which was sort of like the beginning of my business career, right? Because I always had to figure out a way to make money and get cash. And I know it's a strange thing. And I also knew when I was 14 years old that I was going to get my MBA. I knew I was going to be a finance person. I thought I was going to be a corporate controller. But I had several different jobs, and ended up in the AT&T company a while back. And in that, that's where I was moved into product management because my bosses made me, and which was interesting. And then, but it was sort of really good for me because it was like running a little business inside of a business, and I kept on getting promoted. And I was also asked to work on a corporate task force that was focused on benchmarking other companies to associate cause and effect. What were the things that were done, the business practices, and what were the outcomes that were ultimately obtained? So when we look qualitatively at cause and effect, we're able to create these associations that are very basic business things in terms of customer intimacy, competitive awareness, strategic clarity, flexible development processes, things like that we all generally know, because these are the things that have been the watchwords for successful business for a long time. Mm-hmm. I left the AT&T company after they split off the Lucent Technologies piece. I got recruited to go work at Oracle in the Bay Area during the .com era. I was one of the founding members of the CRM business there, and stayed there for just under 5 years until everything melted down, in which I started Sequent. And the reason I started Sequent 20 years ago was because I didn't think that, and based on benchmarks and my own experience, that product management was being done as well as it could be done. And mm-hmm. But I also quickly learned, even after Sequent, that product management, if not effectively as a department, as a function, if not effectively supported by leadership, will be remade again and again in the image of somebody who has a specific perception of how things should work. And in those instances, I mean, I wrote a couple of books. The original one was 10 years ago. It's called Managing Product Management, and the one that came out last year is called Leading Product Management. So this is the one. But the initial chapter of that book is called Reinventing the Wheel for the Last Time, which means stop sanity, stick to basic business when it comes to the structure and function and contribution of product management, and cultivate the talent so that you can have more consistency in how you run the business of your product. And to me, that is extremely critical in how we have to be carrying out our work. We are stewards of business. And in so doing, our remit is to become better business people. It's not better developers, better business people who are market aware, strategically focused, and performance oriented.
Yeah.
The three key areas. And when we look at our product management lifecycle model, the customer and market insights run as an undercurrent to everything. And that the data from those insights inform your strategic intent and the strategic goals, and the performance analysis, or looking at the contributions of a product's business to the organization, represent three dynamic pillars of any business's success. In the middle of our model, we generally have things like planning and introduction and things like that, which are sort of tactical, sometimes linear, sometimes not, but it's sort of like a machine or a factory where things are built and produced and delivered. Me, I don't necessarily care how those things happen in any company. People become enslaved by their development processes way too often for my taste, and forget all of the business, guides. Who are we guided by? Which customers are most important and add the most value to us? Who are the competitors that we need to make sure that we're attacking and or defending? So those are things that, it's a very long introduction, but that's sort of where my stand is.
Yeah. And I really like from the book also, you have the chapter explaining the role itself, right? And what I also really like was that I think that the scope of, like you mentioned, that very business mindset, right? I think for the role, I was mentioning before you joined in, I like that you mentioned a lot about the go-to-market, the pricing part, that I think usually it is a bit sort of like ignored, right? I think now what I personally see is a lot the role being very focused on the technology part, right? How to work with a development team, but not that much on this more commercial or business side. So it was really nice to read about pricing, the go-to-market, and all this wider scope of the role. Maybe on that note, I was very curious also, I was thinking while reading, what is your take now on all these sort of like new roles, you could say, right, that are emerging now, looking for like data product managers, right, or machine learning product managers, right? That is, it sounds, or when I read, right, the job post, it seems like indeed is again more focused on a specific technology, right? But how do you see this?
To me, there's always sort of the domain, and then there's the business. Okay, so product managers are primarily business people. Okay. If your domain is technology or medical or pharma, then there are specifics of the business model that you need to understand. But when people say I'm a strategic product manager, I'm a data product manager, I'm a software product manager, I know it ruffles a lot of feathers when I say these things, but truly I don't care. It is irrelevant what the domain is. You can't work in an area where you don't have the domain expertise to a degree. If you, I'm doing a project with, or I've done a project, I have a client who is in the chemicals space. Now, the product managers need to be business people, but they also need to understand chemistry. They have to have degrees in chemical engineering and other things. So they certainly need to have that domain experience. But in the end, whatever their company is selling and whatever their customers are buying, they need to understand who are the pharmaceutical companies and who are the research institutions and the universities that they sell to. They sell their discovery and whatever things that they do, and how do they track, how are those people doing what they're doing? It's the same thought process of understanding what a customer is trying to do, what they're motivated by, what's their environment, how do they use, how do they decide, who are the influencers? It doesn't matter. It's the same stuff. So whatever the balance is between your business and your domain is not, as long as it's sufficient for a person to sort of, you know, set strategy and set direction, get everybody to come along and get stuff built and out the door. But that said, as well, different people, you know, they're for a product manager, you know, one product manager isn't like another product manager. And back in, you know, in medieval times, there was the trade craft guilds, you know, the masons and all that stuff, and the stone people, whatever those trade crafts were. But just like today with plumbers and electricians and, you know, masons, there are apprentice jobs and there are journeyman jobs and there are masters, right? And each level of professional is, you know, you're doing certain things and experiencing certain things over periods of time until you become proficient and you can move to the next level. And so it goes, I think, for product people. You can't just get your first product management job and just say, I'm it, you know, and I'm a PM for life. And unfortunately, some people have that expectation or that aspiration, which I think is unfounded. But we don't have enough coaches and senior people who understand the development of talent, and they have sort of this one size fits all mold for a product person, which may not be a reasonable way to go about doing this.
I know it. I think everyone at some point realizes how difficult it is, right? I think we all read the nice things about the role, but it's very difficult.
Just FYI, my first product management job was a mess, absolute mess. And I remember my executive director he was like a McKinsey guy, and like I inherited a technology transfer agreement and a joint venture between AT&T and a Japanese company, full-blown manufacturing and distribution in Japan. And all I said was, when I got the job, where's the business case for the venture? And nobody could produce one. And I had to go and figure out what's going on. And my executive director 3 months later says, what's your vision for your product? And I said, there is no product and there is no vision, because I had inherited a mess and I'm trying to figure out where we should go. And I was a kid. I was in my like late 20s or something like that. Maybe I was 30 at the most. You know, I could have gotten fired for what I said, but don't ask me dumb, you know, MBA questions when you know full well what's going on here, and you inherited a mess, and I'm figuring out how to get us out of this mess, which I did. And I wrote a business case to divest any of that investment in Japan, which got me a promotion, believe it or not.
Nice, interesting story. I also want to open the floor. I know, Damla, I think you had a question. Maybe you want to ask it?
It is hard to define your persona when you're working B2B. So is there any source or method to define your persona? Because it is changing. So it was my question.
So your company sells to other companies?
Yes, right.
And there are people who work in that company?
Yeah.
So one of the things I try to do is, I'm going to draw you a picture, is I like to have people in the area of concern in the customer company, okay, is to do something like this. I'm going to draw the picture here with my marker. That is an org chart, right? So there are different people. There could be a boss or a general manager. There could be a user. There could be another user. There could be some influence. There could all different people. And the idea is you build, like an account manager would build a map that says, who are all the different people? What's their names? What are their roles? What are they trying to do? With respect to the product that they have of ours, who are the people who are interacting with it? And then you sort of have to create, you have to have enough interaction with all of, if you have 10 companies that you deal with, you have 10 of these charts, and you have 10 different people with different names, but have a title or a role in here, okay? And you sort of have to create a narrative, if you will, which is basically a story. Like, what does this person do? And how do you get to know who this person is? What do they do in the morning? Do they have kids? Do they have a spouse who works? Are they by themselves? Do they have a big commute? Are they handling, is it a high pressure environment? Are they doing the jobs of other people? What's going on? So you can't just make up a story, as in some companies, when they make a persona, it's like a fairy tale. You want to have sufficient information about sort of the day in the life of those persons until you can draw parallels between what they're attempting to do and how they're attempting to do things. All right. So you can start to look for common denominators, to start to piece a puzzle together of a person or a person type or several person types. Because ultimately, let's say you want to create a user story. Well, how do you know who the user is until you're trying to figure out what the person's trying to do? It's not like, oh, as a user, I want to be able to enter my American Express card thing in the app so I can buy a shirt. That's overly simplified. And yet people do that, okay? But how can you construct a story that will lead you to either some development of super stories or larger epics or whatever you want to call them? But that's the connection is, it's always down to the customer. And we generally do not understand the depth of detail of what a customer is trying to do, which is why personas are really hard to do. Easy in concept, hard to do in real life. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think always one of the nice parts of the B2B, right, is like the account managers have to be also your best friends, right? Because they can help you then schedule, have this time with the customers, really get to know them, like you mentioned, Steve. So I think that's the benefit sometimes on B2B, right?
I was coaching a product manager this morning, and he was complaining about the fact that his bosses won't let him travel to go see customers. And I said, what are you supposed to do? Guess? Do Zoom, you have a travel budget freeze. Well, I have bad language to describe companies that do that keep product managers home.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm generally overly opinionated at this point.
Nice. Maybe is there any questions, maybe comments from someone else on the group? Maybe David, I know you've been reading also the book.
Yes, not finished, but I was telling the group earlier that I've been a product manager for quite some time now, and it's great to have that structure to think about all the different components involved in product management, because in your day-to-day job, I'm not often thinking about the different components. I'm answering the question of the day, etc. So for me, it was a good step back to think about the different pillars, if you will, of product management, and then strategizing and prioritizing is where I sometimes struggle a little bit with on what areas can I add the most value in from a product management standpoint. I was just kind of curious about your thoughts around how you kind of deal with those kind of questions.
How you add value?
How you decide to prioritize where you can add the most value as a product manager.
Oh God. I have a way of looking at things sort of almost through a telescopic lens sometimes, where you sort of have to look at the structure of work and a piece of work and how that piece of work fits into a larger picture, but then sort of come back out or zoom out. I call it zoom in and zoom out on different aspects of things, depending on things that sort of ebb and flow over the life of a product. And the way I break things down from almost from a visual model point of view in the lifecycle model is sort of if I look at these basic work areas, customer and research, segmentation is sort of part of that, competitive analysis, industry or sector trend analysis, strategic planning, prioritization, oversight of development, going to market, performance management, sort of sub-processes of a meta-level theme of sort of the business of a product. And there are things that ebb and flow across any life cycle. You have to sort of figure out what you're doing. And so if you feel like you don't have enough direction, then it usually means that, you know, maybe your strategy isn't clear, or the goals that, you know, that sort of drive that strategy, maybe those need to be, you know, clarified. Or, you know, I know people, they talk a lot about vision. Everybody has to have a vision. You know, I mentioned that story earlier. Well, people get so frustrated by it because, you know, my boss wants me to do it, and I have to write it in a presentation for my quarterly business review, and they get so lofty it means nothing to anybody. And so if you are looking at some of the piece parts of your job, you have to have a map of something that you need to be doing. All right. Are you doing your research? Do you have enough data about usage or patterns, or facts, or fact patterns for that matter? All right. That will influence whether or not the goals that you have are still relevant, or whether the vision, or that sort of, you know, what do I want to do when I grow up next year, or what should my product look like to my customers in a year, and what are they going to be able to do, is sort of, you can hang your hat onto that, and how are you going to build the bridge to that future, and then how am I doing in relation to that? Are some of the things working, or are they not working? And so it's sort of like this strategic processing that's going on in your head all the time. And, you know, you sort of have to be a student of your own company. You have to be a student of business, and a student of your product, and the student of your organization, to figure out, how do I keep myself from being whipsawed around and reacting to every email and every call and every meeting that I have to go to, and whether or not it's relevant enough. You know, is it strategically important to do? Is it helping us to deliver better value to a customer? Is it helping us to be more competitive? There are parameters that surround sort of those decision criteria of what to do and what not to do. And so, you know, it's a very big question with a lot of micro answers, but, you know, that's the way we work. You have to sort of look micro and come back out again. And even when I did that Leading PM book, which I think I threw on the floor now, I created something called a process classification framework. It's a fancy word for a taxonomy chart. And I broke the lifecycle model into 9 pieces. And then I put things to do under each of those pieces. And there are like 152 things to do in the role, and whether or not it's a senior manager looking at what should product people be doing, or a junior product manager saying, what are the kinds of things that are generally done? Or you can use it as a sort of a racy chart, or you can use it as a contextual mind map, for how to do your job, right? That was one of the reasons why I exposed that, which used to be proprietary and isn't anymore. Anyway, I hope I answered the question in the most circuitous way.
I thought it's helpful. The whole zoom out, zoom in, zoom out concept and stuff. That's helpful. Thank you.
I started the second company a couple of years ago, focusing on business acumen, and I created something called a business acumen canvas, which I think I actually have one because I just came back from a course, right? And that model it's really multifaceted, right? And it's hard to see, but there's sort of around the outside it's the external environment, the green strip around it is your mindset, and inside are these core capabilities. And I usually use this model as another way to help people think that there are a lot of things, a lot of moving parts in a company, in running a business and in building business acumen, which is really required to be a product manager, if you ask me, which is why it's for Sequent, it's a segmentation play. It's going after another audience, teaching business skills so they can be more cognizant of their role in helping a company achieve its strategy. But, I use the zoom in and zoom out thing all the time. And even the storyline behind when I was a little kid and they took us to the museum, and you have to, there's the painting, and the teacher is pulling me back by the shoulders to stand here because you'll see things from the right vantage point. but my curiosity causes me to always like zoom in to look at something and stick it under the microscope so I understand it more and zoom back out and reassemble the parts in my head, right? Which I think is what, you know, a general manager or a CEO would be doing if they were running a company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe also similar to what you mentioned earlier, right? I see sometimes people struggle with prioritizing when they land and maybe there is already a backlog, right? Or a list of features, and then you are like, you need to prioritize, but then you're not even sure, like, wait, what's the strategy? What's the vision, right? Because if that's not clear, then prioritizing at that lower level, you will just be guessing, right? Pretty much.
And it just means people are just, they're sitting way too deep into the mess. And the other part that really makes me unsettled is the fact that they say that somebody translates a backlog into a roadmap, which drives me drives me crazy, basically, because a roadmap derived from a feature list is not a roadmap. A roadmap is strategic, and it is intensely important to understand that is the interconnection of your goals and strategy to the things that you ultimately want to do. That could involve platforms or designs or the meeting of regulatory requirements or, you know, security or safety or stability or specific functionality or some user experience. It's a whole host of things. And, you know, recently I had I did a workshop where they had to work on a strategic roadmap, but they had to take my visual and do circles and arrows around it, around different pieces, so that they can connect what did they do 2 years ago and 3 years ago to what end. Like, did they work on a platform strategy in order to develop more features that would allow them to compete more effectively in a given market? Give me the storyline that connects those dots. Okay. And that's, I don't know if you guys want to see a picture of that.
Yeah, if you have it at hand, yeah.
Let me open it up for you here, because I was just fine tuning my picture. So hang on one second here.
And I think maybe while you search for it, there was also a question related to it. I think like defining the good strategy, right? Scott, maybe you want to ask the question?
I'm listening.
Hey guys, sorry, it's a really noisy environment here, so I'm not sure if you can hear me. Good people.
We can hear you well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, so I support everything he said, and I'm kind of a gray-haired guy who's done product management and then senior management. And one of the things that we often run into, and I kind of noticed us talking about strategy, is that everybody has a different definition of strategy, especially sort of junior folks, maybe who haven't, you know, had the business school exposure, or at least to the business books. And so there's a guy named Richard Rumelt who wrote a book called, or Rumelt rather, who wrote a book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. And I just wanted to share that as an excellent resource. And Steven, do you want to, he's showing something. So yeah, so I don't want to take over the thing. So maybe talk about that, and let's just make sure we're all using sort of the same definition of strategy, because often people think of strategy as slogans and, you know, really kind of flaky and unproductive stuff. So I'm going to sign off, and I want to keep listening to what Steven has to say.
You want to know what strategy is? First of all, I didn't make it up. A strategy is basically a plan of action. It's you know, but it by itself is just a term. The real challenge is to formulate goals and strategies. Okay, and my approach is asking and answering 5 questions. All right, really simple. You can do this yourself. All right. The first question is, where have we been? The second question is, where are we now? The third question is, where should we go? The fourth question is, how should we get there? And the fifth question is, how should we know? And the challenge, you know, people, they approach strategy from the point of view of, I got to go do a deck. It's August. I got to get a spreadsheet done. I got to put my SWOT analysis together. That just drives me out of my mind. All right. Strategy is up for grabs every day of the week. All right. And strategic thinking is what's necessary to do that. And so the main idea, the main challenge that I see, and I've trained tens of thousands of people, okay, and worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of companies. And here's the deal: the data required is usually not there. So the asking the questions, where have I been, where am I now, begs the question of financials, market share, metrics, in data about customers, about usage, about competitive activity, about sector and industry movement, economic activity, you name it. And it could be within even a given segment. It doesn't really matter, but there are these host of things that are at play as a business runs, okay? And then, so now, imagine we're like doing American football, all right? And you stop the ball, you stop the play, freeze, frame, everything. Nobody move, everybody is stuck, okay, in suspended in time. The line of scrimmage, which is where the ball is sitting in the context of a whole host of conditions, whether it's, you've got to look at your offense, your defense, the time in the game, the time on the clock, the score, the field conditions, the weather, you name it, all right? And you can come up with a play plan based on all of these environmental indicators, okay, that give you the wherewithal to say, here's my next play, all right? Unfreeze, move the ball, whatever you thought you had in your plan probably went to hell in a handbasket, stop again. So the strategic planning, I mean, that's in sports, strategy is fast, okay? In business, strategy moves at the speed of your markets. Whatever is necessary to do that. In a benchmark interview with John Chambers a number of years ago at Cisco Systems, he said, strategy at Cisco is up for grabs every Monday morning at my staff meeting, because the internet is changing everything. This is back in the 90s. And he said, you can't hang your hat on a once a year plan. He says, we acquire 30 companies in a quarter. They are integrated. They are on SAP. Everything is Ciscoized in that 90 days. If we're not looking at every one of these integrations and how everything is moving along, how the hell do we set strategy? So there's this everybody just throws it around, and the term. But if you ask, I do a workshop and I say, so what's the strategy for your product? What's the strategy for your company? It's like, some bullshit, we want to be the world's leading supplier of hoo-has to whatever's. And I'm going, no, that's not it. And so when I wrote, this book just came out like last month, How to Create a Winning Strategy, 60 pages long. That's it. It is here, I'm templated it and I've explained it in the simplest of detail, all right? Which is a contradiction in terms, simple detail, okay? And the same thing with business cases. These are how we apply our skills. So an initiative that you develop, just because you did your SWOT, you did your things, and you said, I'm going to do this opportunity, you can't do the opportunity unless you do a business case. And a lot of the opportunities that are taken as bona fide initiatives in companies usually don't end up panning out or delivering the results to the company, because nobody really thought through what are the resources that we have to deploy. What else are those resources doing? How do we integrate what you're suggesting into the fabric of the organization? How are we going to sell it? How are we going to market it? How are we going to produce it? How are we going to run ops? All right. It's not about a strategy for 4 features to be done in the next release. That's micro level. I don't care. I want to know how we run a business. Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, am I opinionated today, aren't I? You got
I really like that.
One of those get me in a mood. Well, I apologize if I'm a little edgy today.
It's okay. No, I really like that.
With that, because I have gray hair too.
Yeah, well, this is Scott jumping in again, and actually, I think that edginess is well deserved, because it's just a pervasive cancer. The lack of strategic thinking, especially in the startup world, and so it's something we just have to continually push against. So I'm glad to hear there's a nice bite size, not in a derogatory sense, but in a concise sense, intro to strategy. That's great.
Well, and that's all, that's, my focus is, and Tate will attest to this, starting in 2022, the whole Sequent and Business Acumen Institute mantra is simplify, simplify, simplify. Take the BS and take the complexity out of work so that we can look at things and sort of lay things bare that are easy to grasp and figure out what we need to do. All right. And we're eating our own dog food every day. We do the same thing, in terms of our marketing or our content, or how I conduct a course, all of those things. So.
Awesome. Nice. I want to see if there is maybe, another comment question from the group. If not, also just checking the time. I wanted to ask, indeed, what you have mentioned, Steven, right? You give a workshop and work with thousands of companies. What maybe are, like, I don't know, tips, recommendations you see that product managers are, like, find more useful from all these, all these people that you have coached, trained, and I'm sure probably it's different things for different people, but maybe especially for the ones new to the role, right? Maybe their first job, the first company where they are working as product managers. What are, like, your top recommendations for them?
Learn how the company works, like, know everybody or as many people as you can. Make friends with everybody, even if you don't want to be, and understand how people do what they do all the time. You are an anthropologist, you are an ethnographer, you are a researcher, you are curious, and you are trying to build pictures in your mind's eye as to things that are going on and what needs to be done. All right. And engage people in the conversations that draw them into the conversations. Meaning, the word collaboration isn't just a word. It is a technique to drive people into substantive conversations where they feel heard, even if the product manager has the right of last refusal on what to do and what not to do. Okay, so I think that's important to do. So that's sort of my summary of getting started. And you sometimes you need a little map, your own little strategy for how to integrate into an organization. In the early days of my career as a financial analyst, I worked in defense contracting and medical devices, but I always worked with there was this thing where my bosses would say, like, you need to learn how to influence. What does that mean? Influence your peers. They don't work for you, but you have to get them to do work for you. And I went, that doesn't make any sense. What the hell they got to do with me? So it dawned on me, I should go make friends with their bosses. So I made friends with their bosses, and I got to understand, like, what's going on, what are you doing, what's broken, what's not, can I help you? And then I started getting friendly with the bosses' bosses. Why? Because I was getting some visibility. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just was doing what was common sense for me. Which leads me, in one of my courses, I call it managing up and across. You got to understand who's who in the zoo, how things work, and who are your friends, who are your go-to resources, what happens if you have a problem, without, excessively wasting people's time. Yeah, I really like the recommendation, right? Which is basically try to learn all these different data points, insights, but also learn the different people involved, the different relationships, maybe different incentives and expectations, right? That I think is maybe linked to what Damla also just asked, right? Like, maybe there's a misalignment of expectations with the boss that I take it as part of this, learn maybe what is a good product or success for your boss, right? As early as possible, right? Otherwise, you have this misalignment of expectations maybe at the end. Nice. Awesome. Thank you. Maybe just checking the time. Maybe now we can take like a picture with the ones that have the book.
so we can then
I
post it.
don't even have a copy here. Is that ridiculous? I might actually. Wait, let me look.
We're ready.
Hi.
All right. So, 3, 2, 1.
How's
Awesome.
that good?
Thank you. All right.
Be
Well,
funny.
thank you everyone for
Are you gonna post it on LinkedIn and all that
Yes,
stuff?
we'll post it on
Make
LinkedIn.
funny
I will send you
comments?
the email also with all the links that Teju have shared. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any final words.
Wait. There's more. There's more. So all book readers and all alumni, see, this only happened in the last year. When I rewrote the desk reference book, and which came out last year, I took 300 pages out of it, and we digitized a lot of the analog, and we created a website for people who either read books or take courses. Okay, and the website is sequentlearning.com/community. Maybe Tate, you can throw it in the chatty window there. And
We talked about that earlier, and
Yeah.
it's at the very
good.
top of the chat. So it's the first
Is it
thing.
really? Oh, good. I'm glad. See, I wasn't
Yeah.
here. I was
No,
dealing
that's
with an
okay.
emergency situation.
It's a wealth of knowledge for people from the book reading standpoint, but also from just general product management tools, right, Steven?
And oh, by the way, Tate's been working with me for like 6 years or so, or maybe more. And, even Tate runs marketing, but what Tate really is she's also a product manager sometimes, she has to put on her product hat.
It's hard not to be with Steven at the helm. Contagious.
And she beats the crap out of the agency when necessary because, they need to be kept in line. And she also puts other people in line. And she defends us and saves us money. So this is great,
Making me sound mean.
Sorry. Well, no, you make me out to be the mean person, and then that puts you in a better position, right? But we have fun together, and I hope. Listen, I'm overly opinionated, but I'm also open and available. And so, whether you have questions, if you want to do LinkedIn, you want to send me an email, whatever it is that you guys need, or if your friends need things. Please, I'm accessible is really important for me. Okay.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. So yeah, I have all the links from the chat, so I will send them all on the email to the whole subscribing list, also put it on YouTube, LinkedIn. So yeah, thanks again, everyone, for joining us for the discussion. Yeah, have a nice day.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Carlos and welcome to a new book discussion of productbooklab.com. Every month we discuss online a book about product management together with the author and other product colleagues. If you want to find the recordings from our previous discussions and also join us and participate on the upcoming ones, go to productbooklab.com. To find out how to support the book club and help us keep it running without any ads, check the links in the description.